What I'd like to do is basically just reflect on part of the mission of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, which is the production and dissemination of knowledge. And I don't think that anybody will dispute, and in fact we've heard several people today mention how one of the basic human rights is to access information, is to be able to express myself freely and be able to think and therefore reflect. And if I may just talk very briefly about the Bibliotheca Alexandrina's responsibilities towards the title that we're discussing of human rights and the culture of peace and knowledge, I'd like to draw on a couple of examples just through this year of how the Dialogue Forum, which is simply one of the centers and departments of this vast complex, some of the activities that we've carried out this year. The BA in general, and by the BA I'm using the abbreviation for the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, we try to offer an open forum for debate and discussion and dialogue, as well as offering training and education/learning, whichever you prefer to use. One of the projects that we've been working on is something called the Beacon for Freedom of Expression. And in fact, this was designed in 1995, and it was produced by the Norwegian Forum for Freedom of Expression. And it was done in celebration of the revival of the Bibliotheca Alexandrina and the World Library of Humanism. Now, this project is currently managed by the International Board, which is hosted by the National Library of Norway. And what it is a database and a comprehensive collection of historic contemporary bibliographical information, which currently contains over 50,000 entries about publications concerning freedom of expression, as well as censorship issues, as well as censored and banned books and titles and newspapers throughout the ages. So this is actually a unique source that may enhance open dialogue and further dialogue between world cultures about the universal right for freedom of expression. And IFLA, the board for the International Federation of Libraries Association, actually launched in 1997 something called the FIFE, which is the Committee on Freedom of Expression and Access to Information in 1997. And this FIFE board defends and enhances freedom of expression and free access to information, as well as monitoring and reporting on the world status of intellectual freedom. Now, the library, of course, is part of this project, and we've had 3 conferences so far, and this year we had our 3rd international conference, which took place in April of 2008, in which 100 participants debated various aspects of freedom of expression and access to information. In terms of engaging youth and in terms of training, we've also conducted 2 workshops, one on conflict transformation and resolution and a culture of peace in Egypt. And this engaged 30 young participants, which addresses the question earlier about how do we engage the youth. And it was an interactive workshop in partnership with the Center for International Development and Conflict Management at the University of Maryland. And it was very interactive, and the participants were involved in role-playing on nonviolent communication practices, practical application of well-researched collaborative problem-solving methods, and something called the ARIA, which is the Adversarial Reflexive Integrative Action Methodology. I mean, these are all very large terms, but the important thing is that through this 3-day event, the participants were fully engaged on how to actually prevent conflict and not just necessarily resolve the conflict. We also had something in cooperation with the University for Peace of Costa Rica most recently. Again, this was a 4-session seminar dealing with the culture of peace, introducing different theoretical concepts of culture of peace and democracy and human rights. And on a final note, I would just like to mention something which we are currently discussing and investigating at the Dialogue Forum, the Arab Reform Forum, and that's the access to justice. And I'll just quote a very brief but very pertinent quote by Martin Luther King, who said, "True peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice." And justice is, of course, a basic human right, and we need to basically encourage the strong links between democratic governance and reducing poverty and securing access to justice. And if I can just, to conclude, refer back to what Dr. Federico Meyer said at the opening address regarding justice, freedom, solidarity, and dignity, I believe that I've represented a few examples of how through justice, access to justice and information, freedom through the freedom of expression and thought, solidarity through the creation of peace, will lead to ultimate human dignity, which at the end of the day will allow me to be a responsible citizen, to act on my own reflections, and to build peace through my behavior and with the behavior of the society around me. Okay. And thank you for your attention.
Excellent.